Hi, everybody. I am Trey, one of your average film enjoyers, and I am here to tell you that you can win over $500 worth of movie stuff. So, if you're listening to this podcast, you're a huge movie fan. Obviously, you wouldn't be listening if you didn't love film like me and Jagger. And so, me and Jagger, along with three other content creators on TikTok, Film Gunch, who we've had on here, Wes, who we've had on here a couple times, and then one of our good friends, Real Takes, we are all joined together doing a giveaway currently. And how you join this giveaway is you go to each of our pages. We all have the giveaway video pinned, and you'll go on to that video. You'll give us all a follow. We each account is tagged in every video, and then comment down below. Tag five of your friends, and if you tag five different friends in all five different videos, then you can get up to 30 entries. 30 entries. You can get up to 30 entries. So, but you're like, Trey, well, you're telling me about this, but I don't even know what I can win. Well, I'll tell you what you can win. Real Takes is donating a 4K Harry Potter collection, Blu-ray James Bond collection, I believe a 4K collection of the Planet of the Apes films, and the first three John Wick movies in 4K. I'm donating 3 criterions of your choice, so whoever wins get to choose 3 criterions, and we'll mail those to you. Jagger, my co-host, is donating a bunch of international DVDs. Gunch is donating Don Hertzfeld and I can't remember the other guy's name. Well, the animated show. It's a very limited edition animated sketch comedy show. He has a bunch of steelbooks of all 3 seasons, so he's donating those. And then the biggest one, Wes, is donating a region-free Blu-ray player. So, if any of those items interest you, again, go to any of our TikTok pages. Go to me and Jagger's TikTok page, Trey the Film Noob, Jagger Film Reviews. We have the videos pinned on top of our pages, so go check them out. Follow the instructions. The giveaway ends when we are all 5 of us at 1,000 followers, and me and Jagger are the only ones that haven't hit 1,000 followers yet. So please help us get us there so we can give away all this movie merchandise. Now, let's get to the podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Average Film Enjoyer podcast, where we are back with our Friday night double feature series. Today we are going to be having our guest Jay back on today. How are you doing today?
Hello, Jagger and Trey. I'm good. How are you?
We are so good. I'm good, at least.
Yeah, we're great. Today we are talking about something that I'm very excited about, and it's something that I've talked about at least a lot on the podcast, and we went over it briefly in the movie talk with you, Jay. We are going to be talking about the 2 David Byrne inclusive films, Stop Making Sense and True Stories. 2 incredible films. So let's start with your guys' opening thoughts on True Stories.
You want to start with me?
Jay, go ahead.
Well, True Stories, my favorite movie of all time. Famously, I say famously, it's famous with about 5 people. My Blu-ray of choice for sad and depressing days. My flatmates used to find it lying around the living room and come to see me like, "Oh, Jay, are you all right? You must have had a traumatic experience for this to be here." And it's just, it's the most wholesome movie ever made.
Mm-hmm.
Even though some people might look at it on a surface level and not see it that way, because David Byrne kind of detaches himself from all these characters that we're introduced to, and some people have viewed it as if it's sort of a satire or something, but I don't think that's the case. It's purely just like a little walk on the wild side, little hey, here are these people, aren't they great? This is what they're doing, and that's pretty much all there is to it. There's not a lot of room for, vitriol or any sort of like
Yeah.
downward looking on them at all. It's a celebration of life and the eccentricities that people have when you look a little bit closer.
Trey, you?
Yeah. I'll say the same thing that I'm going to say for Stop Making Sense. If you don't like the Talking Heads or David Byrne, don't watch either of these movies. These are very much like the same, both of these are the same level of weirdness that the Talking Heads are, you know? Like, Talking Heads are talked about as like a classic rock band. They're so much more than that. There's so many layers to them. They're more of like I feel like when I was watching I know this is kind of already like I'm going into it. I need to save it. This film I had such a blast with. I am a huge fan of musicals. I like grew up always being told by my friends, no, musicals are for girls, which is bullshit. You can enjoy musicals. La La Land is my all-time favorite movie. West Side Story is great. The Steven Spielberg West Side Story is great. Sound of Music, great. And I really enjoyed this. Obviously, music, spectacular. I think my favorite musical scene was either the end with a John Goodman song. I thought that was really, really good. Or the beginning. I can't ever remember the song names, but the beginning where they're in the dance club. And they're all coming up to lip sync the song. I loved that song. And it's just like a fun, lighthearted movie. It's an easy watch, not too much to digest. And there's not too much to like, you're not like hanging on every word. So it's like a nice movie if you're just like, I don't know, like working on a puzzle or like playing video games or something like that you just want to have on in the background, that's just nice to have on, and you don't need to be hanging on every word to understand what's going on. You kind of, all the characters are pretty like very archetype. I don't know how to say that word, but I mean,
You had it.
Yeah, you guys know what I mean. Like, they're very, like, this is the type of character they are, and they're not really going to steer away too much from that archetype. So you kind of, it's pretty predictable, but, like, not in a bad way, Like, it's just, like, a nice, easy-to-digest watch. Probably good after watching something that's, like Schindler's List, or, I know Jagger watched this recently, and I did too, Shiva Baby. This would be a great follow-up for Shiva Baby. Just like something that is like a movie that has stressed you out. This is a great like come down movie. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I give it 4 stars, 80 out of 100. I mean, I love David Byrne. I've always loved David Byrne. But yeah, I'm excited to get into talking about it.
Yeah, I would also like to say that both of you really summed this movie up. It's just joy.
Yeah.
And that's all this movie is. It's just a movie that will make you feel happy through all of its 89 minutes. And if watched uninterrupted, could be described as a movie to put you in an almost euphoric state.
Yeah.
I think that's what this is and what this is intended to be. And a movie that not only has that full intention with nothing else, but a movie that executes it with this level of perfection is incredible.
Yeah.
A movie that is, to an extent, beautiful, really, and I have endless respect, and I think that both of you really got into that. If I may say, Tito Larriva, playing Ramon in this movie was incredible. He was the the guy who...
Your mind is a radio.
Yeah,
he sang the Radiohead song.
He does.
The Radiohead song.
We'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, this movie is incredible. So yeah, let's dive a little bit further into it. Let's start there. The Radiohead song. Yeah, go ahead.
Jay,
Famously, the song that the band Radiohead got the name from You have to address that straight away.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't expect it because it's such a like upbeat little poppy thing that you would never associate with their music at all. But but it is a great song, and it's worked into the film a little bit at an early point. You know, in that first scene where they're in the factory and they're all you're introduced to all these little characters who you'll get to know a little bit later, and it's sort of the embodiment of that Ramon character about how he uses radio waves to tune into the people around him and perceive just all these neighbors and things. It's a lovely little segue,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and that brings me, like, the Radiohead thing, crazy, that, like, this is where Radiohead got their name, a band, I wouldn't say, like, mainstream successful, but they have a very, very loyal fan base.
Yes.
Yes.
And, but also, the line that blew my mind, I called Jagger right after I heard it. They predicted Steve Jobs being the CEO. I don't know if Steve Jobs was the CEO of Apple at this point, in 1985. If he wasn't, that'd be even crazier. I'm assuming he was. I have to look that up now.
Yeah.
They predicted Steve Jobs leaving Apple. Like, what? That's like a Simpsons level prediction. Which that kind of blew my mind. But yeah, that the song at the end where Ramon and his band play, I really enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, and that whole scene is like a whole spectacle in itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If we're talking about songs, that puzzling evidence scene made me laugh so hard.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering for you, what about it made you laugh?
How he's just standing there rambling on about complete nonsense, and everyone's acting like he's talking about
something.
he's on to something. Like, do you ever run out of paper towels, toilet paper, and Kleenex at the same time? And then everyone's like, yeah, I do. God, yeah, and yeah.
Do you know what these connections are? Elvis did.
Yeah, I loved that scene. I think it's the only scene for me that I was able to pick up, like, they were trying to put, like, stuff under it. And because I know...
That's there, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how it is in the UK for you, Jay, but I know people, like, I have neighbors, and I know, like, I have old friends that are like that are like, I'm not getting the COVID-19 vaccine because the government is putting microchips in them, or, like, I don't know, MK Ultra experiments, Bush did 9/11, all these, like, crazy, like, right-wing conservative conspiracy theories. I know people who buy into all of that. And there is so much of that I found that scene so applicable. I don't know how it is in where you are, Jagger, but I found that scene so applicable to America's society today and how much social media influence, and it gives people who shouldn't have a platform, people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, just giving a platform, and then everybody being like, oh, he's right, they're right, oh my gosh. And it's just like, I was laughing, but I was also kind of disturbed. Like, this is scarily accurate to how things happen in America right now. It was wild for me.
David Bent just knew.
Yeah, and that can be tacked on to a lot of the Talking Head stuff. David Byrne, as someone on the spectrum, has made it very clear that his music that he writes is his view on the world in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
So any of his songs can, in one way or another, be tied to a personal event of his. And I feel like this is a moment in this movie that he's really just, like, openly saying, this is how I'm seeing it, and I'm gonna make it sort of, like, funny and goofy what they're talking about, but that this is exactly what people are like.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of that here. And when we get into Stop Making Sense, we'll probably pick up on it again once or twice. But yeah, another scene. The scene where John Goodman goes to that lady's house.
God, dude.
Oh, the cute
Singing,
lady.
yeah, and he's singing her the song, and it cuts from her just kind of smiling to her like in tears, devastated. Is the most relatable moment ever, as that song is like, if you go down into the lyrics, is so scarily accurate to a lot of people, including like many people I know. Yeah, it's a very poetic song, really, and I think that this movie has, again, a good amount of that as well. This movie is poetic and beautiful while also staying in sort of like its own silly, goofy area. And I respect that so strongly. And you get that out of a lot of the Talking Heads and David Byrne's work. You get that out of a little bit out of American Utopia as well.
Yes.
And you get a lot of that out of all of his work. The scene where John Goodman is in that place with that guy who's like singing to him in another language and telling him to drink sparkling water.
Oh yeah, Pop Staples, the healer.
Yeah.
His song was wonderful as well.
Oh, it's so catchy.
Yeah.
City of Dreams, another beautiful song at the end of this movie. To quickly go back to the Wild Wild Life scene in the club, when all of the members of the Talking Heads are popping in and out of the offstage. Yeah, that's just such a fun scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, and very well done as well. Yeah, are there any other scenes that you guys would like to point out in
I mean,
particular?
I think the idea of a lip sync bar should be commonplace everywhere.
Oh,
That should just be a thing
100%.
that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like, forget karaoke. If you just want to know the song and want to get up and do some silly moves and just switch places with somebody else when you're done, that's fine. You go do that. Just fly a freak flag up on the stage for a few minutes, and we should encourage this everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
totally agree.
Also, to quickly go back to scenes that are just David Byrne being David Byrne, the scene where he's driving by all of the metal buildings and just talking about how it was an impactful thing in the history of architecture. Yeah, and any of the scenes of just David Byrne driving and talking.
That's what I thought you were going to say at the beginning, where he's driving the red car, and the steering wheel is clearly loose. So he's just moving it up and down.
And I could have watched 3 hours of David Byrne in the car talking about just what's like narrating what's going on very clearly out of the picture of the car. Yeah, this movie's just so fun. It's amazing. It's great. It's
Yeah.
just such a great time.
Going back to John Goodman's scene with where he's at the lady's house, and she's like, "I think you just can't have enough sweetness and cuteness in the world." I also have known people like that who refuse to watch anything sad, listen to anything sad, even all other emotions except happiness, and which I think is bullshit. I think you're not really experiencing art in its fullness if you're not experiencing the full range of human emotion through art. Man, I just came up with that on the spot. That made me sound real smart.
Truly poetic.
But to quote the great Dolly Parton, everybody wants happiness and no one wants pain. You can't have a rainbow without a little rain.
Nice.
And I was like, I was just like kind of blown away with that scene, and I was just like, how are you happy when you're just happy? There's no such thing as happiness when you're just happy, when there's no sadness. And I just thought that was funny.
There's actually nothing funny about that, but
I was just
understand where you're coming from.
No, I was just giggling because is like John Goodman starts singing the song, and she's just staring at him like very concerned.
He's in shock.
Yeah.
She's
She's
never
like,
encountered anything like this.
what's happening? What is this emotion I'm feeling? I found that very funny.
Yeah, there, yeah, that makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah. Also on the criterion for this movie, it says a film about a bunch of people in Virgil, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and that's exactly what this is.
Yeah, it's a perfect affirmation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a film with all of this beauty and poeticism, and it's just a movie about a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honestly masterful. And I think that that's why a movie like this has a Criterion release. It is the exemplary form of a movie in complete beautiful simplicity with all of its perfect imperfectness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's what this is in its simplest form, is a movie already in its simplest form.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really good. So I have this at a 4-star. Jagger, what do you have it out of? I have 80 out of 100. Jagger has it at a 5.4.
96 out of
Okay,
100.
you bumped it up from a 4.5. You were at 94, and then you bumped it up. I respect that.
Yeah.
And then Jay has this
5
stars, 100 out of 100.
5.
Yeah, and so go check this out. Part of our David Byrne double feature. I think this is our double feature where the films complement each other the most, like the best. And so go check this out. I don't know where you guys watched it. I just rented it on Apple TV.
I have the Blu-ray.
Okay.
I had that sweet Criterion Blu-ray.
Yeah. Okay.
Something
So
like
you can rent it. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but you can rent it on YouTube or Apple TV. So go check that out. First of all, before we get into our other double feature, to digress a little bit, Jay, was last month, I was looking at your top 4 from last month. Was last month your first time seeing Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, what'd you think?
I'd seen bits of it in the past, and I'd tried to watch all of it at some point, but I'd never actually gotten through the whole, like just all of it.
Yeah.
And I was just amazed by it.
Yeah.
Like, how perfect structurally that film is.
Oh, it's so damn good. It's one of the 3 movies, we learned this, I think, from Gunch, that has swept the Oscars. So it won Best Picture,
Yeah.
Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, and Best Screenplay.
Well deserved. I mean, it's great to see a
100%.
horror film doing that sort of thing as well, because you'd never see that nowadays.
Yeah.
The Oscars are too, self-serious.
Yeah. So, speaking of Silence of the Lambs, Jonathan Demme directed it.
Yeah.
Which leads us into our next. I don't even want to call this a movie. It's a live concert. Stop
It's a
making
movie.
sense.
I'd beg to differ that this is and so would David Letterman, having called this a film in an interview with David Byrne. If you look at the custom posters, there's one of them that has like a full breakdown of why it's a film. If
for
I
real?
may quickly,
Right now.
if I may quickly read it to you, they give you like a full analysis of the story on one poster. Here, let me read it to you. A polite man is driven to murder. He becomes a prophet and screams manifestos on love, war, and the increasingly alarming impact of technology and progress. Driven to insanity by his own insights into the human condition, he travels to a river in an attempt to drown himself, but instead is baptized and absolved of sin. He dies cross-eyed yet painless. Yes, this is a film.
See, that's
That's an interpretation.
I'd have to disagree, man. I mean, I love it, but this is I don't find myself being able to rate this because I don't think it's a film. Like, I gave this like the same way I do with documentaries or limited series or shorts. I rate shorts. But I'll just like say if I like it or not, There's very few documentaries I've given like 5 stars.
I'll politely disagree. I have this at 100 out of 100 for my number 5 of all time. I don't think there's a single flaw on this. I found this like quite easy to rate, if anything. I mean, there's nothing that brings you this level of emotion, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah.
Going off that poster you just read from Jagger, have you read David Byrne's sort of interpretation of the narrative of the film? Because he spoke about it in an interview recently. So from his perspective, it's about an awkward or maybe neurodivergent person who starts out on his own, sort of unsure where he is in the world, and slowly, one by one, meets all of these people who he's able to connect with, and eventually sort of is able to express himself through groove and motion, which is how you get to the end where everyone's like on this huge stage all together, like connected through music and dance, essentially.
That's even better. That's
Yeah.
See,
So, for people who don't know what this film is, Stop Making Sense, released in 1984. It's a concert film with the Talking Heads. Jonathan Demme they had a 3-night run on their Speaking in Tongues tour at the Hollywood Bowl, which, by the way, if either of you like live music, that is an outstanding place to see a concert. I've been there once, and unbelievable. And he takes 3 different sections from the 3 nights and puts them together as one concert film. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. This is our second movie of the double feature. Obviously, you guys have already given your opening thoughts. I will say again, if you don't like Talking Heads, really don't watch this one, because
I'm going to politely disagree with you there and say if you don't like the Talking Heads, this is the perfect introduction, as it has debatedly the best renditions of some of their music.
Agreed. I mean, I've brought at least 3 people to see the film since it was released a couple of months ago now, who've not been like. I'm a huge fan of Talking Heads, but these people have like never listened to their music before, and they have like all come out of it like wanting to buy their albums because it's such a fun like the music is like perfectly displayed in this. It's like never been performed better, and all of the tunes are just beyond catchy. It's an attack. It's an attack on the senses.
It's a nearly intoxicating experience with how completely enjoyable all of the music is.
Yeah, and what I mean when I say if you don't, I don't mean like people who have just never listened to the Talking Heads. Yeah, go check this out.
Who outwardly dislike them, yeah.
Yeah, the Talking Heads are great. But if you're like, I've listened to the Talking Heads and I don't like it, don't watch this movie. It is not for you, and you're going to hate it because it's just a Talking Heads concert. I did really enjoy this. As I said earlier, I had to contain myself from going on about their music because before I got into film, music was my entire life. I play guitar. I listen to music 24/7. And yes, you can classify Talking Heads as classic rock, but that's such a general term. And there are so many different niches and subgenres in rock. And what I found with this film that I've never found before, like I always thought they were just like kind of like an alternative rock band, which they are, like, don't get me wrong, but I found, especially through this concert film, they have a lot more psychedelic and political, influences. I thought it was really interesting. My all-time favorite band, Phish, which is like Jay, you know, like I've told Jagger about them, but you know, like Grateful Dead or something.
I've listened to Phish before, yeah.
Oh, you've listened to Phish? Okay, yeah, they're like my all-time favorite. And watching this, I saw a lot of influences from the Talking Heads. Like, I was like, oh, that's kind of like something Phish does, and I'm like, oh, cool, maybe they got inspiration from the Talking Heads, and kind of the idea that, like, there's a lot of bands out there that sound amazing in the studio, but don't sound that great live. I mean, they sound fine, but they sound much better in the studio. Fish is one of those bands that they sound amazing in the studio, but they sound 10 times better live. And I found that with Talking Heads, specifically with this concert film, is all these songs that I'm Burning Down the... Well, I want to point out Burning Down the House because it may be basic, but that's my favorite Talking Heads song. I think that is an immaculate song. And, like, it's a great song. Like, I listen to that at least once a week. But hearing that live it's just a whole nother experience. It's so much better. And yeah, I just had such a blast with this. I'm wondering, what are your guys' like favorite Talking Head songs, and what were your favorite from this film?
If I may, my favorite is Life During Wartime. I think that it was great here.
Mm-hmm.
I think their performance, David's performance during it, was so insane and awesome. But if I may point out one that I had not really known before, but hearing it live, specifically with Bernie Worrell absolutely destroying the synthesizer, making Flippy Floppy on this, the rendition in this movie was so special that, I mean, of the multiple songs that have been tacked onto my playlist on the Stop Making Sense rendition, that's one of the big ones here. I think the complete reimagining of Psycho Killer from the beginning of the movie and
oh god, like, dude,
simplicity was so great. I mean, where do I start? To quickly go back to songs that are like close to the record on the film, Life During Wartime, once in a lifetime, but seeing him with those glasses on, with his hands in the air, entirely enjoying himself on stage, was just so awesome. And I think that that's a lot of what this film is. It's them all having a great time and that bleeding through the screen onto the audience.
Yeah.
And all of them look like they're just having the time of their life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jay, what about you? Favorite Talking Head songs, favorite from this concert? What do you think? I
mean, Once in a Lifetime is probably the most played song in my iTunes library, or it was when I still had an iTunes library. As Jagger said, the version in the film is absolutely magnificent for its just the absolute, the energy that it conveys and the absolute joyfulness. And you get a lot of that from most of the second half of the concert, really. I mean, my favorite song from it is Cross-Eyed and Painless, because the record version of that is magnificent in its own way, and it's like sort of jittery, jaggery, vibe. But the way they start this out, where it's all, it's just slow, there's a nice slow little groove, and then when you least expect it, and then everyone goes mental, and it's breakneck speed, and you've got the two guitarists both doing their own thing, screeching, and it's so cathartic. It's the perfect way to end this film.
Yeah.
Especially having it be what follows Take Me to the River, and I mean, besides Heaven, which was magnificent in this film.
Heaven is heartbreaking in this film. With just David and Tina on stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Take Me to the River is the second, I'd say, slowest song in this film, at least. It's not that fast, and having this be what follows it is almost like kind of hilarious. That it's like it's a slow song, and then it follows with this starting slow, and then, like you said, it just, like, when it goes, and it's a catchy song.
If you don't dance when Cross-Eyed and Painless kicks in, I don't want to know you. How can you not be? How can you not be affected in a visceral, like, body way when that happens?
And what he said was, when he was talking about, like, why he chose the big suit, it's that music is a physical experience, and oftentimes your body understands it before your head does. And that's why he made the head look smaller and the body bigger for a song like Girlfriend Is Better that is just full on groove. And again, I also want to quickly say that I found it really cool that they let Tina and Chris do like the big thing for Genius of Love.
Yeah.
Because they had broken away for a little bit before this movie, and they had done that. And letting them do their thing, even though it was something that happened after they broke off, is kind of cool to me.
It's very cool, and I appreciate that they gave Chris the spotlight to just scream nonsense from his drum kit. James Brown!
And yeah, I mean, just to go down the line, I mean, you've got This Must Be the Place, another beautiful performance from David with the lamp. I mean, there's no one who's ever graced a stage and looked as cool as David Byrne dancing with the lamp. No one. You got Swamp, which was a song that I didn't know before seeing the film. And seeing just how kind of all encapsulating that performance for that song was. Again, another song that I've grown to love since watching it. Slippery People, again, go on that list of songs that I had no clue they existed before this film. But a song that was so catchy and great. Found a Job, Thank You for Sending Me an Angel, another magnificent song. And that's what this is. You can go down this list, and even the songs that got cut, Cities and Big Business, Izimbra. Yeah. There's not a bad song on this list. And seeing them in the way that they are performed in the film just makes these great songs all that much better. And rarely you see, like Trey said, rarely you'll see performances live that are this much, not this much better, but still this much better than they are on the record. Because I refuse to believe that any performance has ever been this not only chaotic, but also incredible.
Yeah.
Dude, if you want chaos, go on YouTube and watch Limp Bizkit at the 1999 Woodstock, dude. Oh my!
Don't do that.
Gosh! If you want to see the how terrible human beings are, go watch that. Oh my gosh, dude! That was to go on a little. That was Jay. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do. That's some dark side of history.
Oh my gosh. The fact that they were like, yeah, let's bring Limp Bizkit out to sing to this crowd of rowdy 20-year-olds. And Limp Bizkit comes out and they're just like, it's just one of those days. You don't want to wake up. Everything sucks. And everybody's like, and throwing mud and feces at each other. Oh my gosh. That.
Yep.
Straight craziness.
Jagger doesn't look happy right now.
Dude.
A little confused, but
well,
I mean,
it was
knowing Limp Bizkit, it's not shocking, but
yeah. I mean, for me, I saw the biggest influence or the biggest genre. They obviously combine all these different genres in their music. The biggest one that I saw had the biggest influence was funk. So like stuff like James Brown, stuff like, I don't know. Funk for me is when you have really, really prominent bass lines that are really, I don't want to say groovy because that's like a subjective adjective. They're just very, very upfront in your face. Like, you're like, oh, yep, there's the bass. And then a lot of snare and tom hat drums. It's just like they want to like amplify the beat and the groove of the song above everything else. And my God, were they in the pocket this entire film? Like David Byrne with some of that, especially like just to go to Psycho Killer in the beginning, the guitar playing. He could not have been feeling the groove more. Like, he was just so in the pocket. Every note was just perfect. and I can tell. I'm glad I didn't see this in the theater, because I love, like, if I'm really into a concert, like I'm like I just move a lot. Like that's just how I am.
Trust me, you would not be the only one moving at the Stop Making Sense theater. I'll tell you
No,
that.
not at all.
But for me,
It was famous for having people come out of the audience into the front and dance in front of the screen
yeah,
and in the aisles and things.
yeah. For me though, I do my best listening to music when I can do something else that's mindless. I have a hard time just sitting there and focusing on the music. So I just booted up Fortnite and put this in and put the computer in front of me and played Fortnite while I watched and listened. And I was just mind blown the entire time. It was David Byrne. I mean, great singer. Not a classically good singer, but if you like his voice, he's amazing. I want to say I'm sad they cut Cities out. That's like top 3 Talking Heads songs for me.
Yeah.
Life During Wartime, amazing, as Jagger said. But Burning Down the House had to be my favorite because they played it right before Life During Wartime. Burning Down the House had to be my favorite song from this concert. I mean, they were just what's the guitarist's name, Jagger?
Which one? There was a few of them.
Jerry Harrison.
Oh,
yeah,
Jerry.
He could not have been more, like, you could tell, and like that he was feeling it and that David was feeling it, because when you start seeing these weird dance moves where they're like, you can see when they're just like feeling the groove and like they couldn't play a wrong note even if they tried.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most impressive parts in the whole film for me is when they're playing Life During Wartime and every single person on the front line is like jogging on the spot while playing guitar and bass.
Yeah.
In sync. How do you do that? How do you do it?
As a guitar player, there gets to a point where you know a song so well that when you play it, your brain, like especially in music, your brain just shuts off. You're not thinking about anything, and your body is just like playing, and you're like, how am I even doing this? And it's just doing all the right. That is one of the most immaculate feelings. You just feel like you're like floating outside of your body watching yourself play. And you're just like, oh, okay, we're going there. Oh, I guess we're going there. And it's so fun. It's just like, and you can really feel that with all the band members here. I'm wondering for you guys, though, one of the things I wanted to talk about was live music in general. Jagger, you're still pretty young. I don't know. Have you been to any like live concerts? Jay, I'm sure you have.
Many.
Yeah, I've only been to 2 artists, and it's strange too. I went to Weird Al live once.
Yeah.
Massive W.
And I went to Peter Frampton once, and that's the 2 I've gone to.
Nice. Jay, what about you? What was your first concert and your favorite concert?
My first concert was a British pop band called McFly, and that was all the way back in 2005 or something, when I was like 7. And I've seen too many gigs since. So, you know, like Radiohead I've seen, and the Pixies, and
Hell yeah.
the Brian Jonestown Massacre were very, very good. You might be into them, Trey, since you're into your Fish psychedelic kind of
Yeah.
stuff like
No,
that.
I've listened to them. I like them.
Yeah. But live music's just a different beast, and I think of all the films that have tried to capture it, Stop Making Sense has done the best job, and that's done in such a precise way. Where I mean, looking at the history of concert films, I mean, this was one of the first ones that had the kind of sole focus on the performance and the band, and just never took a moment out to look at the crowd or anything like that, which a lot of concert films before that tended to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just does the best job of displaying the spectacle of the performance, because you've got nothing else on the stage for a while except performers. Whereas a lot of other, especially recorded live shows, have focus on sort of the design of the background, or like whatever bollocks they bring out on stage for the crowd to be wowed by instead of looking at the actual performers. With this,
And
it's
there
just
were
very
points,
bare bones.
yeah, and there were points where they got like really like up close to the performers, and the performers would address the camera being there.
Yeah,
Like the part where the famous part during Girlfriend is Better, where he puts the microphone out to the camera.
yeah,
Um, and there's a lot of things like that where, like you said, there's nothing else being focused on but the performers. And even if they were showing the audience in any way, the performers were still in the frame.
yeah,
And if there was like a specific performer, and most of the time it would be David Byrne in focus, I really like there's a lot of that points where they're focused on David Byrne, like the point during Psycho Killer where he's walking towards the camera, like staring dead at the camera, but they weren't entirely focused on him. Where there would be points that were like half the song focused on other people in the band to show that it's not just they're there and he's David Byrne and they're the Talking Heads in the back. They were showing how every single member complements the next member.
yeah.
And I think you could also interpret the continuous build that it starts showing a bare bones song, and then it builds to show how like there's this ladder of compliments of how every single member is important to the band. And I feel like you could look at it that way, but it really is a heavy focus on the performance. And Trey, like you said, I know that there's a lot of people that would watch this like you did with something else on. But having seen this now 8, 9, 10 times, I could say that the concert itself is its own beast, its own spectacle. And everything about it was built up to every minute detail being perfect. And taking all 3 concerts to give you this wiggle room to have a perfect concert built together. Everything from the shots of him walking out on the stage that happened twice that were inserted by Jonathan Demme, whether it be him walking out for the first time to say that I have a tape I want to play, or walking out in the big suit that I know in my theater people were cheering, because it's, whether you would like to argue that it is or is not a film, it has people that were not originally in the band on stage to help complement as actors, essentially. And it has shots that build up to something epic every time. There's the whole thing that was going on in the background for like a good chunk of it, where they had like random things like just popping up on the back screens.
Yeah.
Everything here is like as large in scale as a Kurosawa film. And talking about it like this is a concert film, that's not what you'd expect at all. And it's all just this big, magnificent final product that is about as satisfying as building something yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And interesting that you keep using the word built and building, because that's what this is all about for me. You know, you start out with just David Byrne and his guitar, and then you get Tina with the bass to complement and some backing vocals, and then you get Chris with his drum kit. It's about music being built. And you've seen American Utopia, right, Jagger?
Yes.
You've seen it. So there's a very similar sort of scene about halfway through where they play Born Under Punches, and he gets every musician to come out one at a time with their instrument, and they just keep building and building on top of each other, and it just shows you like how important the performers are to the performance. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
every little intricate detail is on display, and that's what David and Jonathan Demme in this film want to draw attention to.
Yeah.
It's
And
about how all the little pieces come together as a whole.
and they do really show that throughout. But just to put like that final cherry on top of it all, at the end, David Byrne credits all of the people that were behind the scenes on it.
Yes.
Which you never really see in something like this. But it is all about the process of getting there. And it shows this big final product. And that big final product is almost something that could make you forget how it takes a whole crew of people to get here. So him pointing it out was really cool because it is all about building. It is all about the amount of people it takes to get there. And just showing the recognition for the people that you don't see on stage they're working. So, yeah, it is all this huge, like, over the top, like, big credit, really, for all of these people. And the Talking Heads broke up very shortly after this. But to say that this was like a triumphant ending to the Talking Heads would be an understatement. I mean, like I said, they broke up a few years after. This was their last, like, huge thing together. Like, they had some albums out after, but none of them are going to be as big as Remain in Light or 77. And the fact that they ended with something all about how you could, because they include songs from earlier albums. This wasn't an album-based tour, even though most of it was speaking in tongues. They included 77. They included Remain in Light. They included
More
the
songs
one
about
that
buildings and food.
yeah, more songs about buildings and food. They included everything. So this is almost, you could call it, a film that displays the history of the Talking Heads in a way almost similar to, like, in All That Jazz, the way that they display his death before all of the ending of it, the way that they display sort of like a good amount of that ending in music, they display the Talking Heads history through a musical performance.
Yeah.
And that's what this is, which just adds another layer to how magical it all is. And I mean, yeah, it is their big triumphant, heroic almost ending to the people that were a fan of them throughout. It's like, you listened to us for all this time, you gave us all this support, here's everyone involved giving you this big thanks.
Yeah. I mean, when I first saw All That Jazz, when I saw Bye Bye Life for the first time, that final musical number, it did remind me of Cross-Eyed and Painless, just in
Yeah.
terms of, that all those elements of the film coming together and just the energy of the performance as well, the diversity of it.
Yeah. And I mean, this is not only just a film that's enjoyable, it's a film that speaks about so many things. Like, it includes politics. It includes David Byrne's views on everything. It includes that history. It includes so many layers that to say that this is not a massive, massive project, that, I mean, clearly this was not a short, like, just throw it together thing. This was something that probably took months, if not years, to put together something of this scale. With all of the rehearsing it must have taken to have everything down to this perfection. And like Trey said, they only had, I think, 3 performances to get all of this together.
Yeah.
So this is a layered musical masterpiece, if you will, and a masterwork for, like, alternative music as a whole. This was a standard setter for concert films. This did so much for so much. And
Good way of putting it.
clearly, it wasn't like a one and done thing, because they released this in theaters. It made more money than it did when it first came out. It had a huge following among theater audiences. I think when it was playing at AMC, at least, it was only supposed to have like a week in theaters. And it ended up expanding to being in theaters for like close to 2 months. I mean, it did really well. So it all paid off. And it all paid off masterfully, beautifully, if you will, that they have managed to keep audiences hooked for what is it, 40 years now? They've managed to keep an
far off,
audience for around 40 years. And I mean, their self-titled album in 77, or was it just called 70? I think it was called 77.
Yeah.
77 was released in 1977. That's like 45, they've been going for almost 50 years. And they've managed to keep this audience this hooked that they can make a whole lot of money and build a huge following. And like you said, there were people that probably went to see this because it was something playing, that now, like, they found a music that they love and made more of an audience releasing a movie for its 40th anniversary.
Yeah, what does that tell you about the timelessness of the music itself?
It is
It's still
truly
resonating after all this time.
It's truly timeless, and it is something that, I mean, whether you're a fan of the Talking Heads or just a fan of film, seeing this, it is a not only visually incredible film, it's got all that with, as we've said time and time again now, incredible music. This is truly a perfectly put together representation of the Talking Heads. And, I mean, take it for what it's worth. It's incredible.
Yep, I agree.
100%.
Yeah. Well, that's our double feature, Friday night double feature, our David Byrne double feature. Stop Making Sense it might still be in theaters. It's playing in a theater near me. Otherwise, you have to go pick up a DVD or a Blu-ray. True Stories you can rent. And yeah, that's our Friday night double feature. Join us next week for our, this will come out Friday. Yeah, so our next episode will be Tuesday. We will be reviewing our next film on the IMDb Top 250, The Best Years of Our Lives. And then next Friday, join us for our De Niro double feature, where we will be reviewing The King of Comedy and Raging Bull. We want to thank Jay. Jay, thank you for coming on to talk about these films with us today.
Thank you, Jagger, Trey, for having me.
Yeah, you want to let people know where. Yeah, you want to let people know where they can find you on social media, any platforms.
I'm on Letterboxd and Instagram. Letterboxd.com/Vincent Jello, like the name and the food.
Yep. Yeah, go follow Jay. Writes great reviews. Always love reading them in the morning. You can find me and Jagger at the usual places. I'm TikTok, Twitter, Letterboxd. I need to get active back on TikTok. I haven't posted a TikTok in so long. We talk about this like every episode, Jagger. I'm Trey the Film Noob on all of those places. Jagger's Jagger Film Fan on Letterboxd, Jagger the Movie Guy on Instagram and Twitch, and Jagger Film Fan or Jagger Film Reviews on TikTok and Twitter. So go follow us there. Subscribe to our channel if you're watching this on YouTube. Leave us a review if you're just listening. Comment down below what your favorite Talking Heads song is, and we will see you on Tuesday for The Best Years of Our Lives.